All right, you guys, sorry for being 6 minutes late today. I had a little bit of issues with logging in today for some reason. Okay, so obviously, hope everyone has had a good week and hope everyone has something cool planned for the weekend, or at least just relaxing, which is really cool. Remember, if you work hard, you want to rest harder. Try to stay away from kind of that work hard uh, play hard type of like mindset. That's kind of definitely one way that could accelerate aging and all that stuff. So, what we're going to cover today is basically a topic I hear a lot about, and I see a lot of people like posting about it on social media and all that stuff. And that's basically lipo. And basically, if a person needs to get lipo or wants to get lipo, and the advantages and disadvantages of that, and my opinions on that overall, it is pretty common and pretty popular for people to look to that as basically an alternative to losing body fat naturally or whatever. And of course, if any of you guys have any questions at all regarding lipo or any fat loss alternatives or any questions health related, just feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to answer them. But basically, here's the thing. Okay, so a lot of times the people that get lipo most often are the ones that kind of think they have stubborn pockets of fat that are a result of genetics or some kind of body shape that's kind of tied into genetics. But basically, the general idea is they think they're kind of stuck with this. Let's just kind of have a lot of context here. They think they're kind of stuck with this pouch in their midsection and they can't lose it no matter what they tried. So I hear this often. They're like, well, I tried everything. I've tried everything. And they haven't. Or they gave like a half-assed attempt. Or unfortunately, sometimes they did really give a solid attempt and a solid effort at losing that stubborn belly fat, but unfortunately they just hired the wrong coach or the wrong dietitian, et cetera, and they followed the wrong advice and weren't able to lose that stubborn pocket of fat. And just kind of take a look at a lot of the group members in this exact group, which you could contact and you know they're real. Many of them reached out to me with these stubborn pockets of fat. I noticed like 2 to 3 months later, it's just like disappeared and they didn't have that stubborn pocket of fat anymore. So these people have like it's a wide demographic. So some of them have PhDs, some of them don't even have college degrees. Some of them are like Indian, some of them are white, some of them are even black, et cetera, okay? So ethnicity there is varied as well. But they still managed to get rid of that. And honestly, it isn't genetics based when there's no such thing as stubborn body fat or starvation mode, or your body burns 0 calories, or your thyroid doesn't work and that's why you can't lose weight, or your hormones are all out of balance, et cetera, et cetera. Like for instance, with the hormone question, I hear this often. It's like, oh, I can't lose weight because basically my hormones are all out of whack or something of that sort. And sure, having an underperforming thyroid, for example, might downregulate your base metabolism a little bit, but it's not going to completely shut down your metabolism. It's not like you're going to be burning 0 calories if you don't have like the healthiest and most optimally functioning thyroid, for example, okay? So what that would mean is you need to be smarter with your nutrition choices, and you need to be maybe a little bit more active, et cetera, and then you can come up with the difference. And then in the long term, hire someone that's well qualified to help you, bring that thyroid back to at least normal function, et cetera. So the problem with lipo is, for example, a lot of times you'll see, especially on social media, people post, oh, I just got this done and the results are great. And they post always like right after the surgery. But notice how they really don't post any like body pics or anything many months or many years after the surgery. And the reason for that is, so first and foremost, there are like a myriad of reasons which we've covered on many of our lives here. But one of the reasons is they never actually figured out how fat loss works. Because if they actually did figure it out, they wouldn't ever get this surgery, because fat loss is very straightforward and very easy. Once again, look at how many testimonials I'm posting in this exact group, and the group isn't even that big. And I'm still consistently posting those testimonials. And once again, the ethnicities are varied. The demographic is all over the place. So obviously it's not like a genetic thing. It's not like an educational thing, et cetera, et cetera. It's able to happen. And that's one of their biggest issues, is they never really figured out how fat loss works. And they just have a big misperception about it. And they think it's like something impossible. And they think the only way to get rid of that stubborn pouch of fat is through getting lipo. And it's not. It's very easy. Like, for example, even if you're let's say 300 pounds. So the procedures and the steps you need to take going from 300 pounds to 299 would be the same exact thing as you need to do to lose that last pound of body fat to make your midsection very, very firm. It's the same process, because you have to remember every single pound of body fat is basically almost equivalent to 3,500 calories. So if you're, for example, burning 500 calories in a deficit of what your activity level, genetic base is, and also what your base metabolism is, you will always be losing 1 pound of fat per week. And if you're not, that means you're not in a deficit. It's as simple as that. And because your body cannot gain body fat in a deficit. It just cannot do that, okay? It cannot gain body fat in a deficit. If it could, first and foremost, don't worry about ever starving to death, okay? Because if your body can't gain fat in a deficit, or if your body can gain fat in a deficit, for example, you would never starve to death, okay? And just to test that out, and I don't recommend you doing this, I'm kind of speaking comically here, go ahead and drop yourself in the middle of a forest with nothing but water and have someone pick you up 3 or 4 weeks later. I guarantee you, like, your weight will dramatically plummet very, very quickly. And those quote unquote stubborn pockets of fat that you think is based on your genetics really is just based on poor lifestyle and nutrition factors. Basically, it's your fault, okay? It's not your genetics. It's your fault for one reason or another. It could be because of lack of education and understanding of what health principles actually are. It could be just lack of education on nutrition, how to work out properly, how to move properly, how to even live your life properly, or a belief system that's required to support a health conscious lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. That's what's leading to that stubborn pocket of fat. It's definitely not your genetics, okay? It's just lifestyle. It's just lifestyle and triggers in that lifestyle or environment that are causing you to gain weight. In particular, most likely stay in a consistent surplus of calories, meaning you're taking in more calories than you're burning. Now, we're talking about calories here a lot. Obviously, we've covered a lot of other stuff in terms of quality of food sourcing, et cetera, in other videos. But that's just something to consider, okay? So remember, you need that caloric deficit to lose weight, period. You will not lose weight without a caloric deficit. And if you're not losing weight, that's because you're not in a caloric deficit for your specific body type, genetics, activity level, current base metabolism, et cetera, okay? And that's what it comes down to. So another thing to consider is when you do get lipo, the only issue is you might, for instance, take it away from your belly, but then all of a sudden, a few months later, because you never actually established health principles and understanding of how to lose body fat naturally, which is vital and very important, all of a sudden you'll start seeing that you're getting a tremendous amount of fat accumulating in very random spots in your body. I know a lot of people that had lipo in their midsection all of a sudden have like a lot of body fat now accumulating in their triceps. So it causes kind of your body to look even worse than it did in the beginning before the lipo, because now it's all unnatural and distorted, and you have like body fat in like random places in your body. And remember, you paid for this, okay? So it's a bit silly because it's so easy to get rid of body fat naturally, okay? And I see a lot of people really struggling with losing fat, and they shouldn't be, because in a fat loss journey, losing the body fat is actually always very easy. It's not hard, and it doesn't say much if a person is able to do that. What really is the challenge, and where a person really needs to have guts and intelligence and a good understanding of who they are in the world, is changing the belief system that led to all that unwanted weight gain to begin with, which most likely means probably getting out of your job, finding another job that facilitates a more health conscious lifestyle. Because it's going to be tough, taking care of yourself and being mentally and physically well, working 8 to 10 hours at a computer, for example, okay? That's just not how the human body and how the human mind has evolved to function over the 200 plus thousand years that the Homo sapien has been around, which is basically what we are, and the 1.5 or 2 million, I forget exactly, years that the human species has been on the planet. It hasn't evolved to actually sit and function that way and be under the chronic stressors of modern society. It's a recipe for disaster. And like I always say, because I do these on the weekends, if you do not believe me, Brent, good to see you. If you do not believe me, it is the weekend. I know a lot of you are going to go out. Go ahead and go out and take a look at who's around you, okay? Anywhere, literally anywhere in America. And what you will see is 9 out of 10 people are full of obesity and disease, full of mental and physical pain. And that is an indication that there's a mismatch between that biological organism and that particular environment. Because if they were actually healthy, they wouldn't be very overweight. If they're actually mentally and physically healthy, they wouldn't be overweight, because you have to remember excessive weight gain is the byproduct and the result of chronic inflammation, okay? Which is the result of consistent and chronic physical and mental pain, which leads to that chronic inflammation, which leads to that consistent and unwanted fat gain that a lot of people have. And also there's another study, I forgot the number of it, didn't bring my notes today like I usually do, but they studied the metabolic health, and I'll post it in the comment section. They studied the metabolic health of adults in America. And to reinforce what I'm saying, they found that 88% of Americans, and this is based off standards that aren't even that great in my opinion, 88% of Americans were considered 88% of adult Americans rather, were considered metabolically unhealthy. And once again, these standards were low, and 88% of people couldn't even hit that ceiling, okay? Which is extremely, extremely troubling and reflective of that America needs to kind of step away from a symptom management approach or a medical model approach of pharmacology and back into more holistic health and wellness, and educating people on that, because the only way to be healthy is to live a healthy lifestyle, which we've covered a tremendous amount in other videos. I'm not going to cover too much here, but it basically requires, finding out what your core values are. If you want the biggest health boost ever in your life, the one that's going to add the most happiness, Richard, good to see you, the one that's going to add the most happiness, dude, figure out what your core values are and write them out and see how closely aligned they are to your weekly schedule. And the bigger the gap, the bigger the discrepancy, the more misery, obesity, and random disease you're going to experience throughout your life. So try your best to close that gap. And like I always say, oftentimes, let me get rid of this thing. Oftentimes, Richard, good to see you. Let me know what's new. Oftentimes people are like, well, I don't know what my core values are. And that's totally okay too. That's very common. So one thing I would recommend is, so first of all, like Stefan Walensky would always say, you don't know who you are until you know who you are not. So here's a quick, easy thing anyone can do is take out a notebook, have it by your bed. Whenever something makes you feel great and alive, write that down. That's definitely in tune with your core values, thus more aligned with your soul, okay? Maybe write down also which coworkers you like to work with. Oh, I like these coworkers because they use nonviolent forms of communication, where I don't like this boss because he uses kind of conditional forms of communication. James, hey James, good to see you, man. The Grinch is in the house. Good to see you, hope all is well. Yeah, so write that down. Also, if you're like, for example, in a relationship or a job that didn't work out, first of all, that's not a bad thing, okay? That's not a bad thing. Silas, good to see you. If you just finished the job, if you got fired or you quit or you ended a relationship, first and foremost, like, thank that job and thank that relationship for teaching you what you don't want in the future, okay? Because there's a reason that relationship didn't work out, whether it's with the job or the partnership, for example, the personal relationship, okay? So make sure to write that down. Like, what is it in that relationship that I didn't enjoy or that didn't kind of coincide with my core values? Write that down. That way, when you go on to your next relationship, have the gut instinct to actually look for those traits, okay? And don't fall back into cyclical patterns of basically making the same exact mistakes over and over and over again. Very common one I see with people, because I train a lot of corporate workers, for example, is they come to me 35, 40, 45, like defeated. They're very low on energy. Their adrenal fatigue is through the roof. I mean, they need like 10 cups of coffee to even go through work, but they're still chronically even tired at that. They have random joint pain, could be neck pain is very common, low back pain is very common, hip pain is somewhat common as well. And during the assessment, they're like, oh, I can't handle these hours of work, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes what happens is, they successfully finish their transformation. And, I follow up with them 3 or 4 years later. They're like, well, I took this promotion and, I couldn't say no to the extra 30 or 40K, et cetera, et cetera. Although, like 3 or 4 years ago, they're saying they're already overwhelmed. But not only did they make the big mistake of staying in the exact environment that led them to all that obesity, mental and physical pain, they actually amplified it. And this is a huge mistake 99% of the time, no matter how well the person justifies it. Because like we mentioned in a previous video, if you do not have your needs met first, no project will work out. No meaningful project or relationship will work out long term, because you will grow disgruntled. There's a disconnection between your core values, which would inevitably create insidious stress in your central nervous system, which will create a cascade of hormonal changes, which will then impact negatively, it's most always never positive, your mental and physical health, okay, in a negative way. And once again, these statements are super important. A lot of people focus on, oh, what should I, be eating? And we covered a lot of, good food sourcing, ideally be sourcing pasture-raised meats, wild fish, organic crops. And if you can't afford those, even a whole food, like not the grocery store, but the actual whole food version, so like the steak, is already like a huge upgrade. It's already puts you in a B category, basically. And if you want to go from a B to A category, just kind of source pasture-raised meats. We covered a lot of topics. I have a book on that called Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide, which could be found on Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. And I have a couple of podcasts I've been on as well. You can check those out. I give away just countless of free information on there, which dietitians typically, first of all, most dietitians don't even know what I cover on there. But even if they did, they'll probably charge you hundreds of dollars an hour to go over that information. And I just give it away for free because it's a passion project of mine. I found it extremely frustrating on how difficult it's become to source high quality food in America. So I try to simplify it in that book as much as I can, and also in those podcast interviews for those that are interested in checking it out. But let's kind of talk a little bit more. So we talked about lipo. What happens is, okay, cool. So you took out some belly fat, okay? Now, 2 or 3 years later, you're gonna find that now you have excessive, uneven distribution of fat in your tricep, in your chest, or just some people even get it in their lower back, and it looks even worse than they did in the beginning, okay? This is just enough of a deterrent, I feel. Just by stating that should deter people from getting lipo. But if that's not enough, look, you're not gonna create an attractive body by just getting rid of the fat in your lower belly. You're just not. Rohit, good to see you. You have to look at it optically, like since there are a lot of males in this group, I'm going to focus on the male physique. And obviously, how your physique looks aesthetically is very subjective. Some people think this type of physique looks good. Some people think that type of physique looks good. So I'm just speaking generally here. Obviously, what type of physique a person wants to develop is their specific goal. Like some people like looking very, very lean, for example, where it's a little too skinny, in my opinion, but for them it looks great. So that's great. They should do what makes them happy. Some people like looking huge, you know, like 250 pounds of muscle, and that looks great for them, which is great for them if that is honestly what makes them happy. So I'm just going to just generally describe what on average is considered a good looking physique, okay? And it's usually something along the lines of what you see with those Greek statues. You know, they're not like huge, they're not too skinny, they're kind of in the middle, and they have this like very athletic build of having a good V-tapered physique with good abdominal like musculature, usually like a decent sized chest, good definition, striations in the back, got that V-tapered with the lats like flaring out a bit, muscular legs, but that aren't like huge, you know, nothing is huge, just the muscles like very, you know, aesthetic, very proportional. It kind of, the muscle groups flow into one another. So lipo is not going to help you achieve any of that, okay? It's not going to help you achieve any of that. And on top of that, as a side effect, now you're going to not only achieve that, but you're going to have body fat stored very awkwardly throughout your body for the rest of your life. Remember, when someone cuts into you, it's permanent. There's no going back at that point, okay? And so just that alone is, Lapilo, good to see you. Hope all is well. Just that alone is enough to say, like, dude, do not get it, in my opinion. Dude, I would personally never get it. So, you know, that physique, it's like, you got to develop, you know, like wider shoulders, wider lats. You have to be on a really good, preferably like what I found worked well with a tremendous amount of clients is like an undulating periodization program, you know, where you fluctuate from accumulation phase to intensification phase, back to accumulation phase, back to intensification phase. You kind of spend about 3 to 4 weeks on each phase, cycling appropriately throughout the weeks, which we covered in other videos on how to do that, okay? That's just from a physical fitness perspective. But then you also have you got to have all that lifestyle stuff in place, you know, not working too many hours, which is tough for a lot of people to do, but hey, I'm able to do it. And trust me, a lot of you guys are way smarter than I am. So I'm pretty sure if you committed time to figuring out how to do that in your life, you would. And unfortunately, a lot of times that means leaving a corporate job or leaving employment so you can customize your workday to your specific unique situation, because you guys have to remember the universe is a novelty generator. It doesn't create two of literally anything. Even the same tree, even the leaves on the same tree are each individually different. On the same exact tree, on the same exact bush, there are no two snowflakes that are the same. Jim, good to see you. There are no two snowflakes that are the same. There are no two droplets of water that are the same. And it's the same exact thing with the Homo sapien, the human being, okay? There are no two people that are exactly the same. Even twins are different, okay? Even twins that grew up in the same household, a lot of times they're uniquely different. And I have a few friends that are twins, and they're definitely, some of them are even polar opposites from one another, okay? And they grew up in the same household, went to the same school, did the same athletics, had roughly the same friends, and they still turned out way different, okay? So you can't expect a work environment from an employment perspective to really reflect your core values and needs, presuming you actually know those, and we covered some things of what you can do to identify that. And you guys, this is the stuff that's super important, okay? If you don't master this, your foundation kind of sucks. And it doesn't really matter what kind of athletic coach you hire, what kind of dietitian you hire, et cetera, what kind of books you read. You're building a house on top of a shitty foundation. And the shittier that foundation, obviously, the faster the house will collapse. And the best you can do when your foundation is shitty is damage control. And that will only last so long, you know? Like, you have a dam and it's cracking, sure, you can hire people to patch it up, do this and that, but over time it will break if the pressure continues, okay? Daniel, good to see you. So it is important to really focus on that foundation. Since it's December, we got 2022 right around the corner, I'd highly recommend spending this month focusing on how you could optimize your foundation. Because once you optimize your foundation, you really don't have to work out as much, etc., etc., and you can still achieve like a very good, healthy physique. A lot of people have a misconception of how much I work out. They're like, oh, you work out all the time. It's not true. I actually work out only 4 days a week, sometimes even 3, and for only 45 to 60 minutes, and that's it. That's my workout time. I don't have to work out that much because I don't work super crazy hours. I try to cap it out at 20, 25 hours a week. I took the self-employed route, okay? That way I can kind of customize my work schedule to exactly what my core needs are at that time of my life. And the difference of time that I use is for studying, to attend to anything in my life that I feel needs attending to at that moment in my life. That way I have a lot of balance and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, etc., etc. And this is what kind of keeps you healthy long-term, having this kind of balance. Whenever you go to the extreme of anything, whether it's working too much, for example, or working too little, you always run into the risk of having pathologies, but mental and physical pathologies. But the problem is, a lot of people try to find like an algorithm for where that middle and balance, or as Aristotle would say, that golden mean lies. And you won't find it. You won't find it because, like I mentioned, every single person is different. And the only way to know who you are is to know who you are not first, okay? And then you can find out where that equilibrium, where that middle ground lies for you. And it is going to be very, 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 very difficult doing that while being employed, for example, especially if you're working 8 to 10 hours a day, because maybe some of you aren't commuting to work as often these days, but let's say you are, that 8 hours a day really is your whole day, because first of all, you got to drive. First of all, you got to get ready for work. Then you got to drive to work. Then you got to be at work all day. Then you got to drive home from work. And then you have basically enough time to eat. And then you go to sleep. And you repeat that for 5. Some people repeat it for 6 days a week. And the issue is although you still have that time available during the weekend, you're just too tired, because it's not all about just objective hours, you know? It's also about the amount of energy you have. And a lot of people, if they're optimizing their energy, they might actually still be able to do something. But unfortunately, a lot of people are also just eating shitty diets, relying on coffee. So when their body is very tired, instead of listening to their body, that's your body's way of communicating with you that you need rest. A lot of people just drowned and symptom manage that fatigue with more coffee, which shoots them into a deeper hole of more fatigue and adrenal fatigue, which basically ruins your HPA axis regulation, which kind of then sets a cascade of negative effects hormonally throughout your whole body, which then leads to, in a long enough time frame, more physical and mental pain and disease, which is where we're at today, where 9 out of 10 Americans are full of obesity and disease. It's very, very hard to find an American that's not overweight. And just to give you an example, I am 15% body fat, and a male's body composition, 20% is overweight, roughly, 25%, depending on age group, 25% is obese, and I'm 15%. And I'm not bragging about being 15%. That's not lean at all. I'm just saying, like, how many people as lean as me have you seen on the street before? Yeah, it's probably been a long time, just to give you an idea. And a lot of people, unfortunately, these days that don't think they are overweight are actually overweight. They're well over 20% body fat. And because the standards, once again, have fallen so low, so low, and it's very troubling, not aesthetically. Of course, aesthetically, if you care about that, that's important too. but just what that kind of weight represents. It's a symptom of a lot of mental and physical pain, a lot of chronic inflammation that the person is under to look that way, okay? It's not just aesthetic. But then the aesthetics aspect also has a ripple effect, also has a negative effect on the quality of your entire life. An extreme example is your partner doesn't find you attractive anymore, leads to divorce, which could be financially and emotionally extremely stressful. People approach you differently when you're overweight as well. A myriad of things, okay? It's endless, really, and it's most always just negative. So those are things to consider, and those are all the things that lipo will not help you get rid of, okay? It's a quick fix that leads to more problems long-term because the issue of why you gained that unwanted body fat was never ever solved. It's a maximum symptom management approach to fat loss, okay? Because it was never solved, that tells me, once again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the person doesn't have the education and knowledge necessary to lose that fat. So they will always regain that fat. And now, post-lipo, the fat comes back in very awkward places, your upper back, your triceps, your lower chest, and you look worse than you've ever did before. And it's unfortunate. I really don't know the prices of lipo these days. If you guys know, list it below, but I'm pretty sure it's not cheap, and I really don't know why people would pay for that, because even at any age, and you guys see in this group, I've had 60-year-olds, 68-year-old is probably the oldest, many 55-year-olds, they all lost weight, okay? Weight loss, fat loss is easy at literally any age. Muscle gain for sure gets tougher as you age, but fat loss is easy and doable at any age. Drug-free, with just good holistic coaching, with just a good coach on your hand. Or, you know, I'm always a believer of being your own mechanic too. If you want to invest 10 years of your life really mastering and understanding the psychology behind fat gain, the nutrition of what to do to lose body fat, how to work out, then invest that 10 years of your life and figure out a solution for yourself. Then if not, obviously, you're going to need a good mentor and a good coach to help you, okay? Because it's not going to happen by just changing one or two things. A lot of people are like, oh, I just need to decrease my carbs. Or, oh, I just need to eat a little bit more protein. Or, oh, I just need to do a little bit more cardio. No, it's most never just one thing. If a person, especially if they're 15, 20, 30 pounds overweight, they need a myriad of things that they need to change about themselves completely to have a complete resolution of their unwanted fatness, okay? And all of those need to be done, or you're going to be stuck in these cyclical patterns of losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. And then every 2 or 3 years, if you calculated your average, you've actually become heavier and heavier every 2 or 3 year period, until eventually you obviously give up, and I don't blame you because I would too, et cetera, et cetera. So just some thoughts, okay? I know getting lipo is kind of a popular solution. Once again, I do see people posting online, like the biggest one is like, oh, I got my chin fat removed. It's like, dude, just be at freaking 15 or 12% body fat and you won't have any chin fat. Like, why would you pay to have that removed? And on top of that, not only will your chin be leaner, but your whole entire physique will be leaner and more aesthetic as well once you kind of decrease your body fat overall. There's no such thing as spot reduction. Once you decrease your body fat will come off of everywhere. Sometimes the most common stubborn pocket is the lower abs, but I guarantee you, if you get to 12% body fat, or even 15%, I don't even have it, between 12 and 15%, you will not have lower ab fat. You will not have love handles. If you want to get super ripped, we spoke about in other videos, you would need to be well below 10%, okay? A DEXA scan might be a good resource for some of you. It's like $70, $90. They lay you on the table. They kind of scan your whole entire body and they give you a body fat reading. So you have a good objective general ballpark of what your body fat is. And then you can calculate from there. Let's say you come in at the average American's like 26, 27% body fat, which is obese. Let's say you came in at 20%, 27% body fat. Okay, cool. You want a firm midsection? You got to be at 12, you got to be between 12 and 15%. Everyone's a little different, okay? If you want to be certain, go to 12%, for example. For sure, your midsection will be lean then, your chin will be lean, your face will be very lean, etc., etc. It's not your genetics, it's just your body fat is too high because you don't know what you're doing. Your lifestyle is shit, probably working way too many hours. Your healthy eating, I hear a lot of people say, I'm a healthy eater. And then in the next sentence, they say they just eat a lot of chicken from the grocery store, tilapia. Or they say like, oh, well, I asked them, what does healthy eating mean to you? They're like, oh, I just need to be in a caloric deficit. I'm like, no, this person has a huge disconnect between understanding what healthy eating. There's metabolic typing, which is very important to consider. Then a person's goals and objectives are important to consider. A person's gut health is important to consider, et cetera, among other variables, okay? Most likely their workouts are shit too. They're doing some boot camp or some CrossFit workout and they're already extremely exhausted, but then they're doing these high intensity not joint sparing exercises, which are the worst combination, especially when a person is already low on energy to do these kind of workouts. You need to do more working in, for example, or maybe even more lower intensity bodybuilding type routines to let the central nervous system relax before you do that, or you just kind of run yourself deep into the ground. And you might see some short-term results for sure. There might be some short-term results, but I guarantee you, you're not going to be successful long-term. You're going to burn out, you're going to get injured, and there's so many other variables you could be focusing on, lifestyle related, that are far more important than the workouts that you'll ever do at the gym. The workouts are kind of working out in general is kind of like a supplement to the bigger picture. It's a very small part of the picture. A lot of times people that are overweight, they're like, I just need to work out more. I'm like, no, man, most likely you just need to stop working 50, 60 hours a week behind a computer. And that's too hard for them to accept that. And they inevitably stay overweight, stay full of obesity and disease their whole entire life because they never get out of that system. It's not a natural system for like a biological organism that's spent, give or take, I mean, depending on how you calculate it, you know, the human species has been around for 1.5 million or 2 million years roughly. Victor, good to see you. The Homo sapien has been around for 200,000 years. Remember, in the beginning, there are a lot more human species around. So there are about 28 plus there are new ones being discovered constantly. So I don't know the exact number now, but there are 28 plus human species that were on the planet at one point, and all of them vanished, okay, including the close relative, the Neanderthal, okay? They're around 200,000 years around the European area as well, and they just disappeared. They vanished. And the Homo sapien is actually a fairly new species, around only 200,000 years. You have to remember the Earth is about 6 billion years old. So 6 billion, 200,000, the Earth has been around much, much longer. And there have been the dinosaurs, which were around for, I don't know how many years, but they vanished, okay? And there has been a tremendous amount of evolution, very, very complicated evolution, especially if you take into consideration how long the universe has been around to form the galaxy, to form the solar system, to form the Earth, to go through 5 mass extinctions that have happened through the planet's life cycle to then give rise to the Homo sapien, et cetera, et cetera. And now you have this environmental mismatch. You have a person that's been kind of bred to be a hunter-gatherer, basically having dynamic movement all day, eating, for the most part, wild game, wild fish, and seasonal fruit, and some seasonal vegetables, very rarely, just drinking high-quality spring water, for example. And now you take that biological organism, shove them in a cubicle, aka kind of like a factory farm box, and you just have them be sedentary, drown them with factory farmed food, fast food, coffee, which has like a myriad of very harmful synthetic biocides, which are fungicides, pesticides, rodenticides, whatever is in that particular crop, whatever they're using there, you'll probably find trace amounts of 20 different chemicals in every single cup of coffee. And then people are drinking that constantly. Remember, when you heat up chemicals, a lot of them actually become more potent, okay? And the average newborn born in America is born with about trace amounts of 200 different chemicals in their body already. And that's so troubling because, first of all, like a newborn has a lower metabolism than an adult. So it's going to have a greater impact on their health. And you can see the amount of diseases, the amount of obesity, the amount of mental and physical pain is skyrocketing. Like I mentioned in the beginning, 88% of Americans are now metabolically unhealthy. Go out today, it's a weekend, take a look around, just do a quick observational survey. 9 out of 10 people you run into are full of obesity and disease, okay? They're full of a lot of mental and physical pain to look that way. You don't look that way by just having like a peaceful, loving, happy life. That's not how it works, okay? And all these things, guys, all these things need to be addressed, okay? Getting sunshine, I need to be better at that. See how white I am? Haven't been getting out as much as I wanted to lately, although I did spend a solid 4 to 5 hours at the gun range yesterday. It's an outdoor gun range, so I got some good vitamin D exposure, but I do need to be better with that, okay? Make sure you're sleeping between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Super important. Quality sleep is by far more important than like organic food and working out and all that stuff, because you can only give as much energy as you have. Especially in relation to the topic here, your workouts. Working out takes energy. It doesn't give energy. So if you have no energy to work out, you shouldn't be working out. You're just driving your adrenals even further into the ground. Also, when you're in a state of fatigue, you have a lot more micro movements under load, meaning like the typical one is like, when you're bench pressing, you're kind of distorting your body just to finish that last rep. And obviously, the more of those micro movements you have under load, the more deterioration of the joints you're going to have over time. Thus, the more injured you will get, okay? So first and foremost, if your sleeping sucks, if you have chronic fatigue, you need to really get on a good regimented schedule of sleeping between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And I know a lot of people have psychologically induced chronic insomnia. So for something like that, I'll actually cover it in more detail in another video. But if you have any questions or need some guidance on how to overcome that, it's not that challenging. It's fairly easy. Just send me a PM or leave a message and I'll get in touch with you and we'll kind of try to iron out what is leading to your psychologically induced chronic insomnia, because everyone is different. And once again, it most never is just changing one variable. That will never resolve any issues. Most of the time, if you have a health challenge, such as psychologically induced chronic insomnia, it's a myriad of things that are happening all simultaneously with one another that are all leading to that pathology, because psychologically induced chronic insomnia, remember, is a symptom. It's a symptom. Depression is a symptom. Fat gain unwanted fat gain is a symptom. Back pain is a symptom, okay? All of these things, anxiety, not feeling well rested, all those things are symptoms. Don't be stuck in symptom management, constantly chasing one thing after another, just to find more things pop up. Do not be stuck in this endless cycle that just does nothing but benefit your local doctor, okay? They basically add you to their 401k plan, their BMW fund, and you're always going to keep coming back, especially if all you're doing is just taking medication for your symptoms. They will always get worse. Those medications will cause other side effects, which will require more medication, which will cause even more side effects. And the cycle will continue. You will get sicker, more obese, worse looking year after year, and wonder what's going on. Where in the beginning, all you really needed is just good holistic lifestyle coaching, okay? On what is real food, what real rest actually means, the importance of aligning your core values with reality. That one's huge. If you get that one wrong, you're in damage control for pretty much your whole entire life. Especially the wider the disconnect between what you want in your life and your life, the more mental pathology you will develop. That's the more physical pathology you will develop as well. And I said thus, but really it's more accurate because the mind and the body is integrated. So where one becomes ill, the other becomes ill as well. You can't have a healthy mind without having a healthy body, and vice versa. Some people are, oh, I just like working on my mind. I'm like, well, you can't have a healthy mind without having a healthy body. Especially look up a lot of the new research coming out on the microbiome, for example. Some people are hypothesizing that that is your mind, actually. That's your first brain. And this is kind of the puppet master, and it tells this guy what to do. So obviously, if you have gut issues would indicate constipation, smelly, fecal matter, gut pain, obviously, like in the small intestine. The symptoms are there are a myriad of symptoms, but all of those indicate gut dysbiosis, that there's something wrong with your digestive system, and it needs to be addressed. It's very important, especially to have good digestive health, okay? Because it's going to have, first of all, if your digestive health sucks, it doesn't matter even if you're sourcing high quality food for the most part, because your gut can't break those foods down efficiently anyway. There's a lot of inflammation in the gut, and it's going to have trouble processing that food. You're going to have a lot of constipation. Your fecal matter is going to be smelly. You'll have diarrhea. So I wish I had a picture here, but you don't want, diarrhea indicates there's gut distress going on as well, okay? Or those little kind of goat poops as well. That indicates that there's constipation, there's something going on in your gut. You want kind of like ideally like a long, smooth looking, kind of clay-like looking poop that doesn't smell, and you want to defecate thoroughly throughout the day so it doesn't feel like there's anything built up in your gut or in your large intestine, for example, okay? So that's just to touch on it briefly. But basically, you can see how it's all interconnected. There are a myriad of variables that must be considered all simultaneously to really help a person resolve, in this conversation, their fat gain issues, okay? Their unwanted fatness. And if you just focus on one, just focus on the other, you will see short-term results, but they will most likely just be short-term. You need to, like your car, for example, requires a myriad of parts, some small, some big, to get you from A to B successfully. It's the same thing with your body, okay? It doesn't work in isolation. It's all integrated. Like, will your brain work without your heart? You know, or will your heart work without your lungs? Or will your body work without your liver? No, okay? So it's all integrated. All of it is important. If any pathologies start arising in any visceral organ tissue, for example, it will have a cascade of effect on your whole entire body, including your mind, okay? So we touched on here the silliness of lipo and how it's just totally, in my opinion, not necessary for pretty much anyone. If a person is having stubborn pockets of fat, that's not genetics. And you haven't tried everything. You haven't. Or even if you tried some things, you kind of half-assed it most likely. Or like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, sometimes they just hire the wrong coach, and that kind of sucks, you know? Sometimes you hire the wrong coach and you wasted the money, and they gave you not great results, and that kind of sucks sometimes as well. But basically, don't fall victim to the, oh, it's genetics and I'm stuck with this for the rest of my life. You're not. I explained objectively how you can go about determining your body fat percentage with a DEXA scan, and then what number you need to be at. You could also just look at the mirror. That's what I do. If you have any unwanted amount of fat, then dude, you need to lose more fat, and that's end of story. And stuff of that sort. So, takeaway message here is lipo, in my opinion, sucks. It makes people look worse long term. It does ruin your body long term because, one, the person was never educated on what caused their fatness to occur. They never changed the belief system or the environment that led to that unwanted gain, so it'll always come back. And because now the fat accumulates in different parts of your body, it just makes your body look that much more awkward, okay? And not worth it. I would never have it done personally. I hope the listeners on here don't have it done. And I explained many easy things that you can do to get rid of those stubborn pockets of fat. If you want, you could listen to my podcast interview with group member Brendan Carter. He lost, I forgot exactly how much weight, but he lost like 100 pounds on his own or something like that. And he struggled with those last 20 pounds, like a lot of people struggle with. They don't struggle losing that weight initially, but they do struggle with that last like 10, 15, 20 pounds. And we got rid of it easily in a predictable way. And it's easy, guys, when you have the right guidance and the right coaching, okay? So don't be too stuck on the genetic cop-out. Okay, Jim, Daniel, Victor, Silas, James, Richard, and everyone else on the call, thank you for jumping in. It was great to see everyone, and have a good weekend, okay?